Good morning, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Maui. There we go. Hawaii, United States of America. Today, July 21st, 2021. A simple sharing today. Very likely, very short, potent topic. It came to me just minutes ago doing some walking meditation about the context that we're in, the world. I was listening to a couple of podcasts about China, about the Delta variant, COVID, of course, and the Wuhan lab in the city of Wuhan, China. Dr. Anthony Fauci's testimony with Senator Paul Rand. Reading the news, feeling my heart beat, reflecting on my talk yesterday, reflections on death and loss and life, another installment of this uncertain futures, dancing with the angel of death. And the issue today, the death of dignity. That's a strong phrase, the death of dignity. Without honesty, accountability, and trust. So much of what I hear, read, think, perceive, watch, listen to in the world right now, with regard to everything from politics to health to therapeutics to the pandemic, masks, vaccinations, the variants, Delta, borders opening, closing. Have you gotten the vaccination? Will you get the vaccination? Why haven't you got the vaccination? What is wrong with you that you haven't gotten the vaccination? Are you trying to kill me as my daughter, my father, my son, my mother? The pornography of politics, the absolute absence of trust through the broken landscape of perpetual overlapping expressions of deception, of dishonesty, of misinformation, of deliberate lies, propaganda, with the diabolical, I would assume, motivation to control, to manipulate, to coerce, to dominate, to denigrate, to subjugate, to play out emotional perversities. I don't know what the motivation is for deception and deceit. I'm going to try to explore it a little bit in my own personal life and my experience with others. But I guess what I'm pointing to here is so much instability in discussions because of what appears to be either the lack or the absence, if not the absolute absence, of trust and accountability to the human error of exaggeration, mistakes, overemphasis, neglect, the accountability within one's own consciousness, within one's own psyche, within one's own psychology, within one's own field of emotional, psychological, spiritual, existential intelligences, that topography called character and values and principles that make up who we are as an identity, that define our sense or the lack thereof of dignity, how we empower the virtue of innate conscience, and how do we determine through in that field of invisible information, yet so discernible. And if we lack clarity of understanding the nature of conscience and dignity, we live in accordance with that fallacy, those errors of judgment, of perception. And we live either in folds or lies, the arrogance of false certainty, the coercion of leaders and pundits across the field, medical, psychological, spiritual. And we have what's known today as the world that we see and feel. And today, to me, it feels that we're in this convulsive sense of radical mistrust. I don't know about you, but you don't know what to believe. And if you really do some due diligence, which so many people are doing, you are either further vilified through your research and your information and easily being labeled as a conspiratorial, cyborg, or you run the risk of radicalizing your mind so well that you go down the rabbit hole of an uber super minority of one, or you develop these little kind of trans cult pods where you play out your information-based discussions to try to determine what is true in your life. Should I, shouldn't I, why do I, why don't I? Will I ever be able to travel again if I do not get the vaccination? I mean, that very phrase, that very thought is so subversive today, so fraught with emotionality and psychology, that you may run the risk, as it's being talked about and thought about and expressed all over the world today for months. And even more so today, are we in the arising, I dare even use the word yet again and again, the Fourth Reich, a totalitarian, horror show of absolute mind control, the absolute disregard for truth, accountability, honesty, and civil discourse, spiritual discourse, psychological discourse, freedom of thought, speech, and action, and conscience, the inalienable rights of a human being born regardless of their religion, wealth, status, color, language, the absolute death of dignity is in the air today. There's a collapse of honesty, a collapse of accountability, a collapse of the love of integrity, right? And I'm stating something that's so obvious, yet how do you get a kind of psychological, spiritual overview of the context to kind of like, okay, what's happening here is I don't believe anyone, I don't trust anyone, and no one trusts me. I mean, I watched Anthony Fauci with Senator Paul Rand yet again, and I really admire Paul Rand, his remarkable capacity to stay on track target And I don't know about you, but having done now almost 17 months of ongoing research into the so-called origins of COVID, it's so clear with the evidence, the facts, the receipts, that it originated right there in that Wuhan virology lab, aka a bioweapons lab. In the basement there you'll find the CCP monster technicians and lab researchers and scientists, reporting right back to the nuclear-armed bioweapon delivery, Xi Jinping, the premier of China. And I'm watching this, I'm listening to this, and I'm going like, the highest paid federal employee, Dr. Anthony Fauci, to call him slippery, this is a little bit political, to call him slippery is such an underestimation of this man's sociopathy. Now, you look at his language, you look at his tone, you look at his body language, and everything about him is not plausible. This is looking into your eyes, looking into your mind. This is Nuremberg trial level of denial and slipperiness. They're probably more accountable there. But this is what we have parading around the world today in terms of dignity, conscience, medical compassion, wisdom. And we're asking the boys and girls of the world, in America, Canada, the EU, Africa, India, all around the world to believe this gentleman, this man, who, and it's hard for me to even get it out. Clearly, through the NIH, when it was outlawed in our own country of America, this gain of function, I find this utterly disturbing to study this concept of gain of function. It's a completely new concept to me. To increase the lethality of a virus in a highly, highly controlled setting, for no other reason than to increase its capacity to kill, destroy, and to denigrate its where it's embodied. And a bioweapon. And he and colleagues, with my tax dollars, your tax dollars as Americans, funded a murderous increase in lethality of a virus in a lab in a known country to genocide the Tibetans, the Chinese Uyghurs, the Muslims, the unthinkable persecution of democracy, of the girls and boys, the men and women in Hong Kong, the march of totalitarianism. And this man, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and all of the people associated with him, including the Biden regime right now, we're dealing with a global pandemic, a virus that was originated in a weapons lab, created to increase directed mass murder, a bioweapon. And this man, Dr. Anthony Fauci, is speaking to the world on our well-being, on compassionate health, on best practices with regard to all the various things needed to survive a holocaust of a virus that this man funded, supported, and did everything possible when it was illegal in America, as an American, Dr. Fauci, illegal in America. He pursued this thing unrelentlessly. And right now, here we are, almost 20 months into this bioweapon, whether it was released purposely or inadvertently, it was created as a bioweapon. And just look at this thing in our world right now. Why would someone want to do that, right? Okay, welcome to God and the devil are fighting there, as Dostoevsky said, in the battlefield of the human heart. Okay, religions and Bibles and Tipiticas and all the various religious, philosophical information throughout time immemorial addresses the issue of good and bad, right and wrong, heaven and hell. Okay, welcome to the world today, 2021. What's new, right? But who could ever have imagined, and I know we all say this, my mom and dad would say it, listen, you don't know how good you have it, son. We're veterans of World War II, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Pearl Harbor, Hitler. You don't know how good you've got it. And yet, everywhere through social media, digital media, traditional media, commerce, everyone's in a convulsive conversation. And by and large, I don't know about you, I'm pretty isolated and I pretty purposely stay away, but most everyone is communicating a fundamental mistrust. To trust the safety of being able to be true to themselves in their own research and to share the information of their own discoveries in any safe form where they will not be vilified or penalized, or God forbid, when someone comes knocking at the door and they say, listen, Pfizer's here, do you want to buy stock options? But before you can do that, no, Moderna's going through the roof. Do you want the Moderna? Do you want the Pfizer? Do you want the Johnson & Johnson? Or do you just want it up your ass? Because you are going to get the injection whether you want it or fucking not, okay? This is not even throwaway material for Saturday Night Live. It's like no kid in the world is ever going to go to school again without the jab. And what the hell is in that? I don't like needles to begin with, okay? Never was one for the needle. And I always loved the freedom to choose my own destiny, to travel, to think, to love, to touch, to kiss, to hope, to dream, which book to buy, which one not to read. And there's something so diabolical about tracing this unfortunate virus that was this gain of function story, just a pathogen, and let's increase its capacity to kill. I like basketball. I don't like football. I like tennis sometimes. I like love. I like party. I liked Hendrix. I liked acid. I don't like noise. This is poisonous, evil noise, right? We're in a bad party. And yesterday I gave a talk that was quite spontaneous about wanting to consciously exit. But the word exit isn't necessarily the right word. It's a bad party. And it's getting worse by the second. I don't know about you. I got turned on to the psychedelic to escape the madness of the Western violent culture of lies and war and money and profit and privilege and denigration and apartheid and discrimination. And when I put that molecule in my own mind, I went, there's a different music here. It's accountability. It's dignified. It illuminates conscience and curiosity and wonderment. And I'm watching Fauci and Senator Paul Rand, and I'm thinking of this gain of function story. And it's like, if there's an opposite of the psychedelic, it has to be COVID-19. It has to be a pathogen and psilocybin. And I'm going like, why aren't we talking about the virtues of psilocybin around the world? Why isn't psilocybin being given to all the Congress people and the senators and all the people in the Oval Office and former presidents and prime ministers and priests and theologians? Why is this so fucked up? Why is it so reversed? And I'm thinking, like, no wonder I feel so unsettled. It's a bad party. And it's like, what's so bad about it? Everyone is committed, it seemingly, to lying right into the camera of corporate media. Someone's got Fauci's back so well. The 1% in America, the 1% in the West, and the 1% in China. That 1% has told Dr. Anthony Fauci, dude, you do whatever is required to continue to be the running dog for pharmaceutical companies. Okay, that I said that is definitely reason to be not just canceled today, but digitally executed. I don't know about you, but I hate cigarettes, okay? I don't just ordinarily loathe them. I absolutely feel repulsed by them, having been a smoker. I also feel utterly repulsed. Now, mind you, I say this with a degree of confidence. With this diagnosis of this, this acutely enlarged aorta aneurysm, I've been given every fucking drug on the planet that I want, except the ones that I really want, which are, continual use of MDMA, psilocybin, LSD, the purest form. No, they want to give me all the worst ones. I bring this up because I hate pharmaceutical drugs. And I don't want to get down on them right now more than I really would. And here we're being pushed by, is there a better word for big pharma? Asshole pharma? Third Reich pharma? Fourth Reich pharma? Totalitarianism pharma? Is there a good thing to say about tobacco companies? I mean, imagine tobacco companies coming out with, as they used to, this will make you happy, this will make you beautiful, this will increase the size of your breasts, this will make you more desirable for the man of your dreams. Jab, jab, jab. I mean, we're trusting pharmaceutical companies. We're trusting big tobacco. We're trusting the war machine. We're trusting government. Am I like over the cliff, over the edge, or am I feeling what you're feeling? No wonder we're convulsing in uncertainty, because the propaganda machine that's just rolling overlapping degrees of digital pharmaceutical pornography tsunami energy is dry. I can't even imagine the levels of mental dysfunction and struggle the boys and girls, even enlightened people, even Eckhart Tolle, the power of Mr. Now. I'm sure he's on pharmaceutical drugs, having to cope with the inability to be present. Even Oprah's probably wondering why she's feeling so disturbed up here on the top of Haleakala. It's not the volcano beneath you, girl. It's the amount of lies and overlap bioweapon. But I got a Buddha here. Imagine putting a bust of Dr. Anthony Fauci there. Bioweapon guru. I mean, should it be relabeled as the Fauci virus? He funded it. He's the cartel member that put the bucks into the lab. Isn't that a crime when you do that and someone squeals on you after a cocaine deal? No, Henry over there, he gave me the money to buy the cocaine. 3 years in prison. The normalization of evil. yeah, we're a long way from a Holocaust, but I don't know about you, but this is a very strange picture, and I can't participate. I don't want to participate, but I'm trying to identify in my own humble way, my own little way, what's wrong here. And it's the jagged glass of a landscape through everywhere because of not being able to disconnect from social media, disconnect from the media, disconnect from the dialogue. How do you disconnect when they're coming door to door right now with the lies? And the normalization of deception and sociopathy and pathology and pathogens. It's like the only justice here is to incarcerate Dr. Anthony Fauci and everyone who funded this sicko virus that should never have been, can't get it out, gain of function is how to increase its capacity to kill. If that isn't Hitler-esque, I don't know what it is. So my way of saying, here in this kind of rant, I don't trust Big Pharma for every good reason in the world, plus some. I don't trust, not only do I don't trust big tobacco, both my aunts died of emphysema. I smoked for 20 years. There's 60 lethal poisons in that? And let's increase the poisonous effect of the tobacco, George. Oh, wow, our stock will go through the roof. Why are you funding a pathogen's increased capacity to kill so that it's no longer containable by anything known on the planet, unless it's being used as an indirect or a direct weapon to depopulate? Did you say that? I mean, slap me silly with an awakening of dignity and conscience, but all throughout the Holocaust literature, there were people snapping out of the coma of collusion and pretense to this gentleman named Adolf. And pretty soon they came to your door and they put a little tattoo on your arm called a number. And it wasn't too long after that you were in a ghetto, and not long after that you were in a train. Then you were stripped, you were into a chamber, and Zyklon did you in. Gain of function. Let's increase the lethality of our thinking and develop a chemical that takes people out immediately. It's too long, Adolf. It takes too long. It takes 20 minutes. Increase its killing capacity to a minute. We need to rid the world more of these undesirables. Are we in that kind of phase? I studied totalitarianism around the world, primarily in the country of Myanmar. I've documented it with my colleague Fergus Harlow in 4 books called Burma's Voices of Freedom. These are the voices of freedom, but it's a subtext. It's the study of the psychology of totalitarianism and the complicity of a lot of good people being round up without them knowing it in a kind of process known as the gain of function of how to increase ideologies to dominate other people. Dictatorship. Welcome to Hong Kong. Welcome to Tibet. Welcome to Burma. Welcome to America. I'm not putting all the pieces together with jab, 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 Pfizer, Pfizer, Pfizer. No offense, Mr. CEO of Pfizer, but I did a little bit of a background check the other day, just kind of cursory looking, not to mention the $21.5 million bonus he got last year. Been a U.S. citizen now for the last 10 years. Welcome to America from Greece. A former veterinarian. But one of the more incidental little badges I see in that man's portfolio was how adamant and how continual, unremitting he was in blocking any regulatory controls, price controls on pharmaceutical drugs, and the $226 billion, is it, in profit Pfizer had last year. I looked at the top 50 drugs. You can't pronounce them. But the mantra was, if you don't take them, you'll die. Welcome to big tobacco. The only way to be happy, the only way to find a good husband is to kill your lungs and to kill your throat and to kill your biology. Who would ever in 1 billion years trust a tobacco company executive? They're incarnation of evil. I'm not condemning them ultimately, that they're dark at the core of their souls. I'd say it goes deeper than that, but redemption is part of my biblical spiritual world. But I don't like the world that we're in right now. I don't like what I'm hearing and seeing. As I come closer to the end of this little bit of a scream, this rant, just needed to get it off my chest. Mistrust. I would like to call for, among the few people in my life, the people watching and communicating with me, digitally and in person, the restoration of dignity, the restoration of inquiry, the restoration of the question rather than the adamant refusal to talk, the overcoming, the crumbling, the dismantling of certainty, the overcoming of the absolutes with the absolute A, the absolute T, the absolute J for the jab. Vaccines must be given to every human entity on planet Earth, or we're all going to die. That's a bad Bible. And to look at all the side effects, and I'm going to have to get boosters every hour of the day like I do vitamins to keep down my fucking inflammation. If I don't get a booster every minute of every day for the rest of my life, you're going to die of a bioweapon that was increased in lethality by the dollars and the man-woman power of Dr. Anthony Fauci, being touted around the world in our beloved country of America as the pundit of compassion and medical wisdom. Would you believe in big tobacco or the war machine or the pharmaceutical machine? I want to go on record for myself. I hate pharmaceutical drugs. 10 million other ways that Earth has given birth to curative measures through botany and light and meditation and visualization and therapeutics. There are exceptions, okay, there are exceptions. But the big pharma countries right now, if you've got stock options and stocks in those companies, you will be seen complicit with the Fourth Reich. Not necessarily only because of the vaccination, and I am not saying vax or not vax. I'm just saying use your thinking. Let's have a civil dialogue. Let's call a spade a spade. Dr. Anthony Fauci funded a virus that's been used biologically to weaponize the world. Whether it was released purposely, we know Xi Jinping closed off Wuhan and allowed people from his country to fly around the world, and welcome to COVID-19 being seated in every country that we now inhabit called planet Earth. Pretty diabolical. We see it in his behavior in Hong Kong, in Tibet. The ongoing persecution of 1.4 million Chinese people, billion people, behind a firewall. That is not the Buddha. That is not Allah. That is not Jesus. That is not Mary Magdalene. That is not a goddess. That is not Maitreya. That is not salvation. That's evil. And the running dogs with that kind of evil right now, we need to really understand that Dharma, yoga, spirituality and meditation, psychology and spirituality and all its forms of religion are inseparable from politics and dialogue and democracy and culture. The restoration of dignity, honesty, accountability, and trust. I don't want to preach too much here on how to go about that. But may I invite you to invite me to invite our friends. Let's find the truth gene in our own psychology. Let us find the compassionate rootedness in self-honesty and having more dignified, conscience-based courage to keep alive the empowered beauty of honesty and truth, accountability, conscience, and dignity, i.e., basic human integrity. Let's keep that alive. It was Martin Luther King that said, "Only when it became dark out do you see the stars," okay? It's so clear the contrast between dishonesty and honesty today. I'm inviting you to invite me. Let's take it higher, right? Let's go as high as we can in the radiance of our own minds, in our lives, in our own social circles, our own digital tribes, the people that we meet. Let's keep that alive between us in conversations. The high art, the high, beautiful, dignified art of inquiry and questioning and learning from each other, accountability, and the old-fashioned state of mind called I made a mistake. I was driven at that time by greed and delusion. Imagine Dr. Anthony Fauci voluntarily going on his favorite shows on CNN and saying, you know, it was wrong of me. My country made it a crime based upon the incredible threat of a virus that could be increased in lethality called gain of function. An out-of-control global pandemic. We cannot afford to have this happen. Guess what? Money. I want to make money. Money. I don't care what President Obama and Americans want. I want money. Bad hombre. We all make mistakes. This is a big one. What a moment of redemption for our blessed planet. For Dr. Anthony Fauci, I say stop criticizing him. He's a terrified little puppy. Increase his capacity to reignite his dignity. This is the thing that I want to emphasize here. This is it. I'm not into vilification. It just doesn't, it's so 2 days ago. I love that about Burma and Aung San Suu Kyi and the colleagues that have been voted into power. A deep, long, abiding policy of non-demonization, non-vilification, point out the faults but allow for redemption. Who are we as a civilization? What does democracy mean to us? What the hell does our spirituality, our yoga, our meditation mean if it isn't about the empowerment of high-order redemption, reconciliation? The beauty of overcoming the need to live in conceit and arrogance and false certainty and undeserved recognition, this preoccupation the citadel of capitalism that keeps competition so active in the sky of darkness. We got to reverse it. We're the yogis, we're the meditators, we're the activists. We have to go door to door in our own lives with anti-jab rhetoric. Walk our emotional talk. Keep high the beauty of the question, non-absolutes, the crumbling of certainty, and encourage people. Hey, Mr. Dr. Anthony Fauci, do you want to tell the public why you funded that bioweapons lab and you knew that what you were funding was a bioweapon technology term, gain of function, i.e., let's increase the virus's capacity to kill, not animals, but humans. How many now? Is it 4 million humans have died based upon the China Wuhan Fauci virus? 600,000 Americans? And now they're talking about this variant, Delta, deep sleep, to be the most lethal thing, the most lethal virus that we've known. They're using that. They're saying that if you don't get vaccinated, you will die or be hospitalized. It'll be the most unpleasant experience that you've ever known in life if you get this virus. I mean, I've had dengue fever, I've had malaria, I've had typhoid. I think I even had the COVID in Bali. Nasty, bad flus. But what kind of rhetoric is this? To sell us a cigarette, to sell us a drug, to sell us a serum? There's something so off about the whole dynamic. The dialogue isn't about vaccine or no vaccine. The dialogue is about the fundamental lack of dignity, social discourse, the beauty of human rights, the beauty of freedom of speech, the beauty of choosing one's own destiny, and the colossal mistrust that we have. The colossal, epic mistrust that we have of government and Wall Street and oligarchs around the world, because you use money and privilege and profit to kill and to denigrate. Ask third, fourth, and fifth world countries, rich in resources, what you've done to them in the name of your golf clubs, what you've done to your country clubs, what you've done to other people in the name of weapons, tobacco, drugs, manufacturing, plastics, fossil fuels, and the desecration of the future of all life. If anything, I don't want to condemn the human species as a bad strain of God, but it's all about the study of consciousness. And that's what led me to meditation. That's what's led me to ongoing involvement in the psychedelic research. How can I go deeper into my own substratum and understand the machinations of these incredibly diabolical states of mind called fear and greed and overestimation and lies, all the various things that we all are born with. But our culture right now is in a critical, spiritual, biblical, religious, political crisis of mega proportions, where we are teetering on the precipice, to state the obvious, of self-annihilation and taking out millions of other non-human species, along with our everything, our ecosystem, creating an uninhabitable home. This is just one small element of it. It's like, and it's got us all troubled is what it is. None of us are feeling comfortable, no matter where we are, no matter what size or wealth or mansion that you have, whether you're in Wailea or whether you're in a an impoverished micro dot in Calcutta. everyone is uneasy because there's no place to trust. Our religious leaders are lying to us. Our politicians are lying more than ever. The highest paid federal employee, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the empowerment of medical compassion is being seen around the world as a sociopath. I'm not saying something just out of the seat of my pants. A bioweapon that was deliberately increased in its capacity to kill human beings. It's not too much, but it's sickening, and it's a bad party. And the psilocybin should be done by Anthony Fauci, by Joseph Biden, by all the leaders and religious leaders. They're the ones who should be doing ayahuasca. They're the ones who should be doing, psychiatric, psychologically assisted, compassionate assisted, deep, talk about trauma work. Take the trauma story off people. Put it on the leaders. They're the ones who are acting out the most vicious expressions of satanic behavior. Is it sourced from some kind of childhood wound, or the devil got a hold of them in some previous incarnation? It's irrelevant. They're the ones that need to purge before they take down the entire world of life, not just human life, but all life. So I want to encourage you in the restoration of dignity. Recommit to honesty, self-honesty, transparency, accountability, reconciliation, and the restoration of high order trust and safety, that we're being held by a fabric of morality in this world. And right now, it's burning, it's crumbling. And no one feels safe in the quicksand of this absence of moral ground. We're in quicksand. We're in a fire, a forest fire of deceit. And we all know it. We can feel it. And everyone is being co-opted in a diabolical I or other, right or wrong, division of consciousness, a divide and rule tactic that dictators and totalitarian zealots use skillfully to divide people, divide families. Ask the people who survived the Bosnian massacres, the Yugoslavian genocides. A common thing that was used was to divide families, because which part of me do you want to kill? The Croatian Catholic or the Bosnian Muslim or the Serbian Greek Orthodox? It was a mixed society. We're all human beings born from unlimited conditions, and it was not an uncommon thing. Which part of me do you want to kill? The Croatian Catholic or the Bosnian Serb? And there are examples of being shot on one side of the heart or the other. How satanic and evil is that? Gain of function taken to its most evil conclusion, genocide of the population in the name of joy, happiness, truth. I mean, talk about a lost species and a lost planet. We are spinning in an orbit out of control. I'll end here. To me, it's a crisis of leadership. The idea of a girl today in college or a boy today in high school aspiring to go up the ladder, wherever it is, through the dungeons and the trees, to find themselves in high political office without being assassinated every step of the way, to be a Gandhian king, Aung San Suu Kyian, You know, a great president, a great prime minister, a great spiritual leader, truly a pope of dignity. How is that humanly possible? So, leadership. What are the attributes of leadership? That's what we need to study. And we need to empower those attributes, learn to embody those attributes, and live them regardless of the price that we pay to live in dignity and integrity, right? Walk your talk, Alan. So, from my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in. The death of dignity without honesty, without accountability, and without a radical, abiding sense of trust. Let's take it higher. Take it higher and allow ourselves to support ourselves to have a much more open, tolerant, toxic, resistant state of mind that's talking through the issues, learning from each other again, and let's give inquiry, reasoning, independent thinking. And the beauty of why I'm an American, why I love my country, why I love being alive, a little bit love it, is freedom. When I put LSD in my mouth and I saw Jimi Hendrix, it was like, hello, I belong to life again. I don't have to live to kill. I don't have to live to lie. I don't have to live to work to pay taxes, to drive to meaningless bullshit jobs. I don't have to live programmed based upon tyranny, oppression, and privilege. Maybe that's what's needed. High dose of dignity across the planet to redeem our species into higher order dignity and conscience and trust and steward the future of life, right? Steward the future of life into a much more powerful, peaceful orbit. From my heart to yours, thank you for being in my heart and life. And thank you for your beautiful commitment to dignity, to conscience, and the elevation of ecological and human and planetary and cosmological rights. So, hope to see you tomorrow, God willing. Thank you.